Hi everyone, Courtney here to talk to you today about why people continue to stay in debt and to not reach financial freedom, and some things that I have seen along the way in helping many people over the years. So as far as financial coaching goes, I used to have a solution-focused coaching business, and I still technically do. I've just opened it back up, but I used to have a private practice where I would do yoga therapy, but also I would do solution-focused coaching. And a lot of times money would come into that when people would have certain goals they were trying to meet. And I would just use the tenets of yoga. And if you're not familiar with what that would look like, there are a lot of tenets in yoga that kind of mirror this, like contentment and learning to find balance in your life. So I don't want to veer too far off track, but just to say I've done a lot of personal finance coaching with people and a lot of volunteer personal finance coaching. And one thing I see happen over and over and over again are the things I'm going to talk to you about today. And so when I want to know so I'm whole food plant-based, when I want to know how to lose weight, I look at what you have to do to gain weight, and then I don't do those things. And one way that I became financially independent, my husband and myself, is that we looked at what other people were doing and we emulated that. Because, hey, I don't think I'm so smart that I didn't write the book on this stuff. Most of the time, every thought I've had probably isn't that much of an original thought. So let's talk about what the barriers are. And most of the time, y'all, it's here. It is this brain up here. The first one is they fail to get an emergency fund. They fail to create an emergency fund that is dedicated just to emergencies. And so what happens is they don't have the emergency fund. And then when something comes along, they keep putting it off, then the credit card becomes the emergency fund. And so there's no way to get around it. You have to create an emergency fund. That means you're going to have to quit spending for a while. You're going to have to do things like sell stuff. If you're lucky enough to get like a tax return or sell something or get a refund or something like that, you can put it to it. But most of the time, this is going to take a conscious effort to have a garage sale, sell things on Marketplace, get an extra job. We're going to talk about that in a minute too. But you've got to figure out a way to create that emergency fund. The next one is they don't stay motivated. So in order to stay motivated, you have to continually watch things like this: YouTube, podcasts, read books, get around people who help you stay motivated. When you're not doing anything to stay motivated, you're going to lose focus, and the rest of the world really lives in debt. 70% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, y'all. And so I think the last statistic I saw was that 70% of Americans also don't have $400 to cover an emergency. So do you want to be normal, or do you want to be above average? And if you want to be normal, just do what everyone else is doing and you'll stay in debt. Most people out there, they look rich, but they're not really wealthy. They have a lot of stuff, but they have a lot of debt. There are a lot of people out there who look wealthy, but the truth is they're in debt up to their eyeballs, and their net worth might be zero or next to nothing. And, we have a saying in my family: I would rather be wealthy than look wealthy. And absolutely, 100%. So they continue to move debt around, and they don't free up debt, and they continue to go into debt. Y'all, you have to stop going into debt. Debt is never a way out. Getting more debt, moving debt around is never a way out. I'm not going to say if you have a credit card with $1,000 on it and you want to move it to another credit card with a low interest rate, that's not a good idea. But if you have a car loan and you owe 3 years on it, and you go and you refinance it for 5 years, all you've done is created more interest that you're paying. And so I would highly recommend the debt snowball. I do like the math on the debt avalanche, which is paying off the highest interest rate first. It makes sense mathematically, but the truth is most people stay motivated. The science behind motivation shows that small wins keep you motivated. So paying off that smallest debt first and going in that order, it is a bit of a slog, so it keeps you motivated when you do that. I'm going to give you another little tip here, which is kind of a sidebar. when I was getting out of debt, if I would get any kind of lump sum amount of money, I would do this little game. And this is an original thought for me, but someone else has probably had it, which was, I called it the third, or the 3-3-3 rule. So a third of the money would go to debt, a third of the money would go to savings, and a third of the money, and because I was a single mom at the time, a third of the money would go to fun with my children. My children will tell you, even though we struggled, I would always do a little family vacation, even if we just drove 4 hours away and went to a theme park or a nice hotel with a pool or some kind of safari or zoo or something like that. That's because every time a little extra money came in, I took a little bit and I set it aside for some fun. So that also kept me going, where I didn't feel so deprived all the time, because honestly, I think that is one of the negatives with the Dave Ramsey plan, is it can be hard to stick to, because it's just that whole like gazelle intent, sell everything but the kids. And honestly, that's why a lot of people give up on it. The next one is not cutting your spending enough. And so one thing I would recommend is, and I did this a lot when I was getting out of debt, I still do this to this day, and these habits I had when I was getting out of debt are what helped us to become financially independent and helped us to stay financially independent, and that is to cut 10% off your budget. So we do need to constantly be looking at the big things, and you may not be able to change your house, which I actually did. I sold the house that we built back in 2004, and we moved to a cheaper house. My ex-husband and I did. And then I've also sold cars and gotten less expensive cars, or I didn't trade up, I didn't increase. So like when I sold my 2015 Subaru for $12,000, I purchased a 2013 Honda for $12,000. It had lower mileage and was a nicer like style car, but I didn't like constantly try to increase. So when you have the opportunity to make those big purchases, that's an area where you can save a lot of money. Quit going into car debt. And if you have to go into car debt because you don't have any money, get the lowest, most practical car for your needs that you can, that is going to be economical to take care of, and it's going to have a long lifespan. Otherwise, go through and cut 10% off your budget. If you spend $100 a week at the grocery store or $300 a week at the grocery store, cut $30 out. You won't hardly feel it. That's going to be not picking up a few things, maybe meal planning, maybe pantry shopping. Not hard to do at all, and you won't hardly feel it. The next thing is to consider the fact that, like, if you're going out to eat and you look back over, you're going to have to look at your income and expenses. And if you look back over your expenses and you see that you're spending $500 a month eating out, cutting $50 out of that, or even looking and saying, well, we're going out to eat 3 times a week, 4 times a week, we're just going to go twice a week and we're going to go to cheaper restaurants. So like if you're going to a steak restaurant and you're sitting down twice a week, maybe you're going to go to like a Tacos for Life or a Panera Bread instead. And then on the other things about like nickel diming yourself to death, there's a lot of people who will say like the latte factor is a joke. Don't listen to that. It's not going to move the needle. I don't believe that at all, because I know people who get Starbucks. And yesterday, my accountant had to meet me at Starbucks, and I offered to buy her a drink, and she had a large drink. I don't even know the sizes. I know they're grande, tall, something like that. And I just said, just give me the big one, because that's what she had. For her, she asked me I told her I'd buy her something. She said, just get me one of these. And so I ordered 2 of those. By the time I looked at the tip, it was $18. I about passed out. But you know, I have it. I can spare $18. I am financially independent at this point, but I would never go through and get coffee every day because that's such an expense. But if I value that, maybe going once a week to get coffee with a friend would be worth it. I might not do it while I'm getting out of debt, but at some point, I don't think it's a bad thing if it's in your budget. So there's a saying that there are 1,000 ways to save $1, but there's only a few ways to make $1,000. You're going to have to reduce your expenses, and this is the next one, you're going to have to increase your earnings. Now, that might be Uber, that might be DoorDash, that might be babysitting, cleaning houses, cleaning people's gutters. Y'all, there's a whole lot of old people out there that can't reach their light bulbs. They can't change out a fan. They can't clean their gutters. They can't weed eat. You can find something to do. I have cleaned houses, watched people's pets. I have babysat. You can run errands for people. There are apps to do all of these things, but also if you live in a neighborhood, just put it out there that you do these things for people you know, and you can make money. When my grandfather was sick and in the hospital a lot, we paid someone, this is way back, like 15 years ago, like $16 an hour just to sit at the hospital. He was completely out, just to read and sit with him at the hospital. So you have to take care of the little things, because the little things are the big things, and this develops the habits that you're going to need. So I have learned, we call it smart spending, and I quote Mr. Money Mustache. If you don't know who that is, I highly would recommend you look him up. Smart spending is learning to have the same value in life on a lower budget than you can have on a higher budget. So what does that mean? I drive an 10-year-old car. I don't feel like I would have any more value in driving a brand new car and having higher insurance payments and more worry about something happening to it. My life is not really any different. It doesn't move the needle. This shirt, I think I got this shirt at Target 3 years ago. I'm not any more happier if I go buy a shirt at a boutique and wear it than I am wearing my Target shirt. Does that make sense? Like, if I can get a decent shirt at Target or a resale boutique for half the price of me going to a regular boutique, I don't think anyone notices or cares. I had on a shirt this weekend and someone was like, "That's the cutest shirt I've ever seen." I'm like, "Oh," they said, "Where did you get it?" I was like, "I got it at Walmart 3 years ago." You know, who cares? Nobody really cares. The next one is the fear of change. Oh, so I want to go back to not making enough. You're going to have to make a little bit more money, whether that's asking for a raise, but you're going to have to increase your income if it's an income problem. If it's not an income problem, you need to look at where you're spending your money. But usually it's one of both. And math does not have feelings. Math is negative, positive, subtraction, addition. It's us. It's our brain that's going to either spend that money or earn that money. And I would like to add on that before I go to the next one. One thing that has really helped me, because as someone who is super frugal, had to be super frugal most of my life. I was talking to my accountant yesterday. Something happened. I freaked out a little bit. I didn't get rude or anything. I was really upset about something that happened because it was like a $6,200 mistake that they made, and we got it fixed, I hope. But I was really freaking out. And I was like, there's still a part of me that's that single broke mom trying to get out of debt, trying to take care of 4 teenagers. That's like, I can't waste money, or I can't feel like money's going to be taken out of our account. And I don't want to wait to get it back. I don't want it taken out, when it shouldn't be anyway. So there's still a part of me that is that single broke mom, even though now we're financially independent. So something that helps me a lot of times when we have to make a big purchase, or when I'm struggling over spending a little bit more for something that would bring value to my life, is to say, what is my daily income? So if you make, let's say, I'm going to say $35,200 a day, then I'm going to say that's going to be $100 a day would be your daily income. Is that right? 35,200 divided by 352. Is that how many days are in a year? Y'all forgive me. I'm a little brain dead. It's late here. But anyway, so that your daily spend would be, your daily income would be $100 a day. And that's, let's say, after taxes. So if you kind of make around $100,000 a year after taxes, and I know some of you may not be even anywhere near that, but some of you are going to get there eventually. And there are a lot of households out there making over $70,000 a year, living paycheck to paycheck. There are statistics that show that there are a lot of people out there making $100,000 to $150,000 living paycheck to paycheck. $100,000 a year is around $300 a day income. If you keep your spending to a third of that and you save 2/3 of that, you're going to be so much better off. So for me, that might look like I go to the store and I'm in a different state on vacation and I see something I need, like a loaf of bread, and it's $9, and at home it's $5. And I'm like, I'm not paying $9 for that bread when it should be $5. But now I have enough money that $4 isn't going to really affect my net worth. But when you are broke, and I still probably wouldn't do it, okay? I'm still not the person that's going to do it. If you are broke, you need to be looking to find the cheaper bread, okay? Or not having the bread at all and doing something else. And I still live that way because I don't find that much value in having the more expensive thing most of the time. So fear of change is a big one. We are afraid of the social pressures of not being able to go out to eat, being invited to do things. I had one client that I've helped a lot that's a volunteer thing. One of the biggest problems this person has is their activity with their friends is shopping. And that is really challenging if your activity with your friends or family is shopping. So that needs to have an honest conversation. And I'm not a super religious person. I do consider myself a Christian and a spiritual person, but there is a place in the Bible, I believe it's in Peter, that talks about not being you don't want to be the person that causes another person to slip up. And it's something about a stepping stone. I can't think of the verse right now, but a stumbling block. You don't want to be a stumbling block to someone else's success. The way I look at it, do you remember in high school, there were those kids who they didn't drink or party? I always looked up to those kids. I was not in that group. I was in the party group for a long time. But I remember really looking up to them and thinking, I want to be like that. And so I did. I quit partying. And for a long time, I didn't party. I didn't do the drinking and stuff. And it was because I saw other people who I thought were cool not doing that. You can be the cool kid with money. You can be the person that says, I'm taking control of my life and we're getting out of debt and I want to be debt free. And chances are, if the statistics are 70% of people are living paycheck to paycheck, the person you're talking to probably doesn't have the money to be blowing anyway. So fear of change from friends, family, from social pressures. You got to get off the TikTok. You got to get off the social media. You got to get the ads out of your life and try to avoid them. Find free things to replace your habits. So if shopping is one of your free things, then you're going to want to maybe go walking, get a cheap gym membership like Planet Fitness. Find things to do that don't cost much. Can we go to a matinee? A matinee where I live for two people is $11.52. Maybe don't eat at the movie, but go to an inexpensive restaurant. My husband and I will often go to a place called Tacos for Life. It's like a Mexican Panera. And we'll go to a matinee, and that whole day costs us under $50 for two people. So if you do that with a friend and you're spending $25 versus $150, that's a huge savings. But you also want to start maybe trying to hang out with people who are on the same page as you, or try to find people on the same page as you through meetup groups and things like that. I recently just joined a Colorado Mustachians group. I don't live in Colorado. My son does, and I intend to go to some of their meetups. Before the pandemic, I led classes on voluntary simplicity at our library, churches, things like that for the Northwest Earth Institute. I also led book clubs and frugal meetups and things like that at the library. Be the change. Be the person that does it. Don't be afraid. Get a book. Go to your library and say, I want to have a book club. And get a book like Your Money or Your Life and have a book club with other people. There are people out there like you. So I think that pretty much covered everything that I had to say. I hope this has been helpful to you and that you found some value in it, but you can do this. Keep watching things to encourage you. I will just share real quickly a little bit of my story. I got out of debt when I was so I had bankruptcy at a young age from a car accident. I had a stillborn child when I was 20, and I had lost my job from the car accident, and I got a divorce. And I went into bankruptcy, and I said, never again. I got married. I got out of bankruptcy. My grandparents left me just a little bit of money, and I was able to buy a house. Well, fast forward about 10 years, my ex-husband had a lot of problems with work and things like that. And we sold. We had gotten a little bit of debt. We were never in a lot of debt. But we sold that house that I had purchased when my grandparents passed away, and we made a little bit of money, and we built another house. Well, we overbuilt and we got in debt again. I got out of debt 3 times before I stayed out of debt. And once I stayed out of debt and I was able to start investing my money in the market, and so I used index funds, and we can talk about that at some point, investing my IRA, our 401ks, paying our house off, buying CDs. Now we earn interest, and we earn more interest now than I was making in my job previously that I left. But it took me 12 years, well, about 11 years to go from broke single mom in debt, making $15,000 a year, to financial independence. Yes, we started a business. Yes, we built that business. But I was on my way. I had developed good habits. I had gotten out of debt, even on that low income. I had, was out there hustling and working extra hours, more than 40 hours a week, and doing all the things because I knew, even before I was going to get remarried, and by the way, my husband I'm married to now was also in a really bad financial spot. It wasn't like I married him and that cured me. But I knew that if I got on that path, if I was on the path to debt freedom, to having a good emergency fund, to saving, that no matter what, even if I had to retire at 65 or 67, I would be in a better spot because I would not be retiring with debt, and I would know how to live with a few needs rather than a lot of needs. Now that we're comfortable financially and we can pretty much do what we want, I don't really even want for those things because I know that true happiness doesn't come from stuff and that is fleeting. So I hope this is helpful. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. Bye-bye. Oh, please like and subscribe.